And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with Nicole Grinnell. And Nicole, first of all, thank you for being my guest today and having some time for me so we can talk about this.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, you are welcome. This is going to be a really fun conversation and very profitable, I think, for my audience, because you help entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners with an area of business that's really challenging, and that is finding key people in our organization. And that's just hard. Finding, staffing our organization so that we can grow is really challenging, but you kind of make it easy. So that's what we want to talk about. As we get there, let's start with a deep dive, Nicole. First one, how in the world did you get to doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not really sure how I got here myself. I think a lot of people can probably understand that comment. But high level, just my background that I think kind of wove me to where I am now is I grew up in a small business family. So my parents owned a medical lab. They eventually sold to LabCorp. So that gives you a space of where they were in. And throughout that time where I was working alongside of them, I really had a unique seat at the table of working alongside my parents' employees and hearing their needs, their complaints, things that they needed from a culture, all of those things. And then also sitting at the dinner table with my parents and understanding the pressure that a business owner is under. And those two mindsets don't always go together, just like anything, right? We don't always understand what another person's going through, and employees don't always understand the burden that business owners are under. And so I kind of got to see both sides of that. I then transferred into corporate world. So I was able to pick up on a lot of things that, as opposed to flying by the seat of our pants and running like an entrepreneur, I saw some structure and processes. I really gravitated towards that. I love efficiencies. And I served as an executive assistant. And then I kind of got in this space where I was really wanting to be home with my children. And so I was working as a virtual assistant. And that's really kind of where the light bulb moment came on, because I was talking to all these business owners that really needed support, but maybe they weren't in a space to have traditional staffing or traditional employment. And that was really where everything that my background had brought me from kind of turned on that light bulb. And that's where Boson was born from. So in really high level terms, we're able to kind of bridge that gap between when a business owner is starting and what traditional staffing is, and say, hey, there is another way to still get help and still be profitable and bring in right talent.
Interesting. Okay. And I want to take just a little detour here, because Boson's the name of your company. When I first saw that, I'm like, what in the world? And I did the research, but our audience hasn't done it yet. Help us understand Boson and why in the world you name your company Boson.
Yeah, so I'd love, again, to tell you that there's some amazing story, but it came from reality TV. We were going through a rebranding, and I watched this show called Below Deck, which is all about kind of these yachties and these people that are supporting on these yacht adventures. And they have a role on there called bosun. And that person, when you look up the definition, is in charge of the crew and the equipment for the captain. And so we really looked as the business owner as the captain of your ship, and you are needing someone to be in charge of your equipment and crew. And that's what we want to serve to the business owner as. So that's where the name came from.
Love that. It's always fun because the stories captivate our attention. We remember that. And when you think of, you are the captain of your ship entrepreneurially, and you need a good crew. And how do you find them? Well, Nicole's got a way, but before we get to that, I want to talk about, help us understand some of the struggles that you see entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners. What are they struggling with before they come to you? What have they tried? What's just keeping them up and not going, oh, I can't get that? Help us understand that, because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, especially when you're starting out, is you're wearing all hats, and there's a time and a place for that. But then as the business grows, they really only see two options. Either I've got to keep doing all of this, or I've got to go hire a full-time head. Well, that burden of thinking about hiring a full-time person, it's extreme, especially your first hire. And so you may even get to the point of saying, hey, okay, I do want to bring in this person full-time. But then when you start describing what they're going to have this person do, it's, hey, I'd like you to handle my invoicing. Also, it'd be great if you could do some social media posts. also answer the phones. And you're trying to make this person a catch-all as you were serving, but understanding that's not a real role. And that's certainly not a person that is going to be a long-term fit or really even be successful. So what we wanted to do is say, hey, all those roles you just described, you need someone to answer the phone. You're missing phone calls or emails. You need someone to get invoices out the door. You need help with your marketing and your social media. Let's bring in people at a fractional level that has that experience, and let's bring them in to complete those jobs. So now you're getting someone who has a marketing background and is going to make sure your social media presence is right. You're going to have a bookkeeper who's going to go beyond doing just invoices. They're going to be able to do your books. And you're going to have maybe an assistant who's answering the phones and getting all your emails and making sure calendars are booked. And you've brought in those people for those skill sets, and you're still paying less than bringing in a full-time person and trying to get them to wear all the hats. So it's a model that I don't feel like people are even really aware of, and we're trying to get a lot of education on out there. And it's how we've actually built all of our companies as well.
All right. Yeah, I totally understand why people don't get it, because you just exploded this bomb in my head. I'm going, wait, because you're so right, Nicole. And as an entrepreneur, right, I'm growing in things, and I'm like, oh, I need these 6 things taken care of. And in my head, I think that's one person, or I think I have to hire 3 or 4 people. I don't have time, interest. I need it done. I don't know how to do it. Are you saying that you help me figure that out and hire people on a fractional basis? So it's not even full-time, it's not part-time or half-time. It might be 5 hours a week for billing, or what? Help unpack that.
Yeah. So there's all those operational roles from the first sales call to the final invoice that need to be done, right? We've got onboarding, we've got calendaring and scheduling, we've got bookkeeping and invoicing, we've got our marketing materials. And so typically they're trying to throw this into one person. So the way I like to really say it is it's essentially co-working for talent. So you are sharing a resource and you're saying this individual has a marketing degree, let's say, and they're wanting to, for whatever reason in their life, be able to work fractionally, work remote, but they still want to look and feel like a team. And you, business owner, are saying, I only have 5 hours a week to delegate. I would love for someone to be able to handle these things. And we're essentially matching that and supporting it. So we're saying, all right, Michael, I hear from you that what you feel is falling through the cracks is competition is getting everything through Instagram, and you have no Instagram presence, and we need to get that up. Let's bring in someone to focus on that. And you're going to pay 5 hours a week, and we're going to be there to support that with a relationship manager. And as that grows and you go, okay, now our social media is killing it. I can't even keep up with all the work that's coming in. Great. Now it's time to bring in that assistant, and let's make sure that she's booking out your calendar. So we walk through with the business owner and are there to guide them to make sure that as your revenue increases, your labor increases, but those two should always be tied together.
Oh, that's awesome. And you had a phrase there that I want to pause and unpack, because I think that's one of the keys to what you do, is a relationship manager, because I really think that's what scares a lot of business owners is the managing, finding the right person, managing them. Unpack that and how you work with entrepreneurs there.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, the hardest thing, and I think anybody knows this, is, well, I don't know how to delegate. I don't know. I have time to manage. I don't, whatever that is. And so we understand there were a lot of new managers coming into our client base that didn't know how to do that. And so it only helps all of us for that to be successful. So when a client comes on board, they have a relationship manager. That person is handling the initial onboarding and meeting of their new team member. And then they're checking in on a biweekly, monthly, quarterly basis, whatever that client prefers, to make sure, hey, Michael, I know you said your goal was to make sure to be off at 5 and you wanted to have 1,000 followers by July. How are we hitting that? Are you delegating? Are you making yourself available? I know we talked about 30-minute Monday morning meetings to let them know what the priorities are. Are you sticking with that? So it really kind of serves as like a business coach, and really a manager coach to make sure that this role is successful.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. So I'm going to term it a couple of things, sharing people for higher profits at one level, but you come in and you're functioning in a sense like I would call it a chief operating officer, where you're paralleling with the captain. You're I don't know what the captain's right-hand person's called, but the first mate, I don't know. But you're taking care and working with that business owner to say, what do you need? Because every business needs different things. And you're saying, okay, I got that. Let's go find these 1, 2, 3, 5 people, whatever it is. And then let's Nicole, we are going to manage them, find them, manage them, help them, all of that, make sure the metrics are getting done. And the business owner meets. Now, do they meet with you or do they meet with the talent every month? I mean, how does that work out practically?
Yeah, so it looks and feels like a team member. So
Huh.
if Michael's bringing on Sally, Sally's going to look and feel part of that team. So whatever that looks like for your organization, we definitely encourage weekly calls, letting them know, hey, here's what I'm going to be delegating to you this week. This is what's important to me. This is what's on the agenda. But they're going to look and feel like a team member, just like if you go into a co-working space, it looks and feels like that's where your office is and that's where you function from. So it's the same principle in mind. It's just done on a fractional level.
Mhm.
It's essentially a managed service, right? And so you're not having to deal with the employment, or I need to do reviews, or what if this doesn't work out, or I don't know how to train them. Like that's what we are there for. And we're making sure that we're bringing you talent that is exactly what you and your organization need.
And it's so cool when you work with people like Nicole and they bring you this talent. These people aren't like fresh out of college. These are usually really experienced people who, what we have found as we've employed different people is once they understand our system, our culture, and who we are, after really just a few weeks,
Yeah,
they come to us and go, okay, this is great. Have you ever thought of this? I've learned this over
exactly.
here. Can you do that? And they bring ideas to us that help us improve our systems or deliverabilities. Is that kind of happen
No,
sometimes?
100%. And that's honestly why we don't really use the word virtual assistant, because I feel
Yeah.
like it kind of almost cheapens what we
Oh,
do.
totally. Well, yeah,
Um,
I haven't even put you in the virtual assistants category. I mean,
right.
this is a different animal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team member and they should be bringing ideas and interacting and evolving as a team member, just like you would in any traditional employment. And that's what we're sourcing for. And you're correct. I had a guy actually talk to me the other day and said that he was wanting to get an assistant. And he said, now I understand, we'll have someone with you and they'll be, basically like a gopher at first. And then eventually I'll train them. And then maybe one day they can be an executive assistant. And I said, well, actually, I'm going to challenge you on that. They're going to come in as an executive assistant. And the only thing that's going to be leveling up is their understanding of you and your business,
Yeah.
and hopefully leveling up those processes and how they can be assisting you. But you are not getting bottom of the barrel talent here that you are then grooming and training. We are bringing people in that, just like you have an alternate reason for looking at employment this way, they have an alternate reason. And that's why we are being able to combine those things.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense because really, I was gonna say what's leveling up is the entrepreneur to
Right.
to really get out of the idea that and you probably see this, and my audience will forgive me once again, is that most entrepreneurs out there aren't. They're not
Right.
business owners. Their business owns them. They've got a high paying job.
Right.
But as an entrepreneur, we got into this for financial freedom and time freedom, but most of us aren't there because we're not hiring people and delegating properly so that we build systems first and then people to run those systems. And every movie I've ever seen, the captain of the ship really does not a whole lot. I mean, they
Right.
just sit and they look and they think and they visualize, and somebody else is doing all the work. And that's exactly how a good business should run. Is that fair?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And there's a time and a place to be the one that's mopping the deck
Yep.
and steering, right? But then when you get to those moments, it's like, okay, now I'm in a place where someone else can mop the deck. Great. Now I don't have to do that. And then eventually you look up and you go, okay, great. Now I really am in that captain seat where I am responsible for the vision of this company, for the deliverables of this, and I have my team that should be operating efficiently. And so that's what we want to bring in.
Yeah, that's cool. That the vision came to me, the idea, and I don't know why, and I'm not a Star Trek guy, but Star Trek, Captain Kirk, right? He would just sit in his
Yeah.
chair and he'd look at different people and they would, beam them up, Scotty, and
Right.
it would happen. And that's really, as an entrepreneur, that's the vision you need to start moving toward and saying,
Exactly.
okay, every successful business is run by people.
Yep.
And there are some myths out there that, I'm the one man shop that makes $8 million a year. No, you don't. You got a team of people. You're just not showing us.
Right. Exactly.
And finding talent is hard.
It's
So
very hard, and it's a huge fear of a business owner, especially to bring in. I mean, I can tell you just from my own standpoint, I mean, bringing on an employee, like it's a burden on you, both
yes.
mentally, you feel that responsibility, you want to make sure the company can support that. So I certainly empathize with that. And so that's why this is, especially in those beginning stages, or even later on. I mean, we use our own model. So where there's roles where you have a team member that's maybe getting overwhelmed, and you can bring in someone that's 5-10 hours a week to offload some of those tasks for that person and keep your team member that's maybe is a full-time role in a place that they need to be, because it's inevitable everybody's role starts picking up some things that really they've moved on from but are still there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's great to be able to say, hey, let's bring in a fractional 5 hours that can take some of those things off your plate as well. And it's a great experience for current employees.
Yeah, this is so cool because I keep thinking, so, fractional team members for time freedom, because as entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
we tend to be driven by the money, but it's really the time. And once I get more time, I actually have more time to think. And when I have more time to think about my business grows.
Yep.
And I think that's what you're bringing to the table is a fractional team concept where a business owner, entrepreneur, CEO could really leverage their time by delegating properly, having the right people on the ship so they can steer the ship. They can say, this is the port we're heading toward. Navigator, do this. Did I summarize that fairly?
100%. I'm going to take you on the road with me, and you're like, let's get this moving.
Yeah, I think that's really, really cool. So, all right. So I know some people in my audience right now are going, all right, this is like different than I thought. I don't want virtual assistants. But I don't want to hire somebody. And this is kind of a hybrid in a sense, is that you've got qualified, experienced people in a variety of areas in a business that you could work with a business owner, have some discussions, and say, what are you trying to make happen? And okay, we can bring some people in. How do people, what's the next step for somebody listening to this? Where do they go to get a little bit more information, read some things, hear some things? Because it's at one level, I mean, it's clear. And then another level, it's still, I got a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
Where do they go to start engaging a little bit deeper with you, having calls or whatever that is?
Yeah. So if they can go to our website, it's just Bosun, BOSUN solutions.com. And we'd love to actually offer your listeners 50% off their onboarding. And what that onboarding is really matching you with your relationship manager, making your job description, and getting your talent sourced. So we would love to give that to your listeners, but they can reach out to me, and I'm happy to continue the conversation, answer any questions. And sure, everyone feels like they'd love to run through what their own business is experiencing. And I would love the opportunity. I'm just a business nerd. So I constantly am saying, I'm really not a creeper. I just love business. I want to know everything about yours, and where we can be of assistance, we would love to help.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to grab that and put it in the show notes. Bosun Solutions, BOSUN, right?
Yep.
BosunSolutions.com is the website. So if you're out jogging or walking the dog, if you got your phone with you, just pound it right now. But we're going to have that in the show notes too, so you can always grab it later. But I really like this concept of fractional team members. It really is the remote workforce that we hear about, that some of us are using, but it's more structured. Let me put it that way. You vetted the people, you know where the people are, you can bring them in, and you could bring in 1 or 20, depends on what the business owner needs. So whether you're an entrepreneur really just starting out, getting your feet under you, or if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I think Nicole and her team can help you leverage the talent that's out there, because she has access to some talent pools of really qualified people who can come in and in a fractional way. I love that name. That it's, I work, one of my best friends is a fractional chief financial officer for attorneys.
Yep,
and just that concept is, oh, I get to buy a percentage of his time, but he's an expert at that. Same thing here. You have experts in a variety of areas. We can purchase a percentage of their time to become team members, know my culture, and help me grow my business and help me buy back some time. So I experience some time freedom to grow my business so that I can get to that financial freedom. Is that fair?
That is totally fair. And like I said, I'm going to make you my #1 business development agent
there
here. You get it, you believe it, you've seen it. So yeah, perfect summary.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just know I've struggled a lot in the 11 years we've been in business. We've broken through some barriers. I just hear this all the time of, where do I find good people? You find them at bosunsolutions.com and having a conversation with Nicole and her team so that you can start taking steps to get your ship aligned, pointed in the right direction into that port, putting those sails up, put the wind in your sails, and get going, because you offer a great service. So don't think you have to do it yourself. You be the captain, let Nicole fill your ship with the right crew members and do it in a very cost-effective way. And as a Expert Speak listener, you get 50% off onboarding. That's going to be in the show notes. And you can talk to Nicole when you reach out to her, bosunsolutions.com, to find fractional team members to buy you back some time freedom. Nicole, thank you. This has been really, really intriguing.
Oh, I really appreciate you having me, Michael. It's been a joy to have a conversation with you.
Well, you are welcome. We're going to grab everything we talked about, put it in the show notes, reach out to Nicole, and thanks for listening to Experts Speak. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Michael.